It's the DC and the Sunshine Man podcast with Dave Koken.
Dave Koken is here. It's Cofield. Might have Willie Ramirez in a little bit. So what's up, Dave?
I enjoyed a lot of basketball, hockey, and exhibition baseball today. It was a full day.
Nice.
And the results were pretty good, so that made it more enjoyable.
Good. Let's see. Mr. G's in. What's up? RJJ Ryan. Juice. All right. Little KC Chief. He's back. All right. Well, tell me about the baseball first before we start going through today's bracket betting.
Well, I'm just watching games, trying to size up some of the depth talent on the different teams, and probably start making some decisions in the next few days as far as futures are concerned. I haven't bet anything yet, although I'm pretty sure I'm going to do something against the Marlins. They were a complete fluke last year. They're not going to be good.
You think that's where you're leaning?
Yeah. I mean, the odds makers are too. It's not like they're doing you any favors as far as their numbers are concerned, but I think they sure look like a last place team in that division.
Do you have their win number in front of you?
Not in front of me, no. 70 something, 70, 73 and a half, 74, something like that. But they're going to be lousy, and that division's loaded.
Looking at their lineup, I thought they did a good job of picking up, solid dudes in the outfield. We'll see if they can both stay up the whole year and both stay healthy. But
I think they were.
What do you think of them adding Marte? That was a weird one.
He's a nice player, good player.
Yeah.
I don't see the pitching being good, and that the division is just too strong. The Mets are pretty good. The Braves are very good. The Phillies are much improved. If the bullpen is much improved, which I think it's going to be. Washington's still solid. I just don't see where the wins. And no, they're not going to sneak up on anybody. Everything went right for them last year, and nobody cares about them right now anyway. So I don't know why we're spending time talking about the Marlins.
Dude, I'm so fired up. March is my favorite month. I'm so fired up for baseball. I got to get ready for fantasy baseball. Are you back doing it again? What are you going to do? Is your league getting back together?
I'm in 2 auction leagues and have to get my keepers set from what's coming back from by the end of the weekend. So I got work to do the next couple of days.
Marlins, Sandy Alcantara, Sixto Sanchez, Pablo Lopez, Hernandez, Rogers, Gio, Gonzalez being given a shot. Yikes, the bullpen's a bit shaky. I think their lineup could be okay, but yeah, this is not that's about right with the 71. You think they're going below the 71.5?
Is it that low now?
That's what RJ Ryan 1 is saying.
Okay, because I had looked a couple of days ago and it was a little higher than that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do that or not.
So what's up, Willie?
What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
We missed you. It's like just so everyone knows, don't think like I haven't reached out to Willie. I reached out to Willie a bunch of times, and it's because of all the conference tournaments, and then VGK playing on Friday.
Last 2 weeks I've been at Pac-12 Women, and then the Mountain West Conference tournament, and Golden Knights have been in town. So, Steve texts me and says, "Hey, what do you got going?" And then I think we got March Madness out of the way, other than Golden Knights being at home. I'm around, but it's been crazy. Cool. It's good. What's good to see is it's been good to see. We didn't see it at the conference tournaments, but the Pac-12 Women I did, and is just starting to see the trickles of crowd coming into the local venues. It's been nice to see.
Yeah, what's it been like at T-Mobile as they've upped it just like a little bit?
Yeah, it's there's a noticeable difference. Obviously, you hear it when they're chanting the players' names. I mean, because they were piping in the noise when there was no crowds. that part of it, they were making up for. But to hear those specific chants, either chanting for Fleury or when they yell "Knight" during the national anthem, or at the end of the game, the players coming out doing the stick salute to the crowd. It's it's been nice to see just for Vegas and for sports all around.
Dave, did you bet the game tonight?
No. The only bet I made in the NHL was Calgary, and plus 140, I believe it was, and they got there somehow because they were definitely on their heels in the third period, but they got there.
I was looking up what the line was with the Golden Knights just to tweet something, and they're 11-6. They were going into tonight 11-6-2 all time. 9 of the 19 meetings were 1-goal games. But I noticed with the total was 5.5 over. And going into tonight, they were tied all time, even though the Golden Knights have won 5 more, 49-49, average of 5 goals per game. They scored 5+ goals though in 6 of the last 7 meetings. So they've trended upward in terms of higher scoring goals or higher scoring games between the two. So the over ended up cashing tonight.
Nice. What was first of all, I'll ask you, how did Leonard play?
He looked good. He played, he played well. Okay. I mean, for coming off of a concussion, the thing is with Leonard is it's hard to gauge, you see two different players, 2 different goalies, 2 different styles. You're so used to seeing Flower and the quickness and the flashing of the glove. Leonard makes the same saves, but he doesn't have to do it so fast. So you never know if he's just moving slow or what because he's so big.
He really has not played particularly well this year.
No, he has not.
He just has, let's call it straight. I mean, he's given up too many rebounds, and the goal at the end of the first period tonight. You can say, well, he hadn't played in a while, but he directed it was a stick side rebound blocker save right into the slot. You can't do that, and they put it past him. He needs more work, and hopefully he'll get some because just in case Fleury's not, something happens, you never know what can happen. Fleury's clearly the starter come playoff time, but they need to get Leonard more work, and now that he's back, I would think he'll maybe get 1 out of 3 starts. But I think the alternating goalie thing that was going to be in place at the start of the season, that's not going to happen.
Really?
Fleury, how can you sit Fleury? He's one of the 2 best goalies in the league right now, along with Vasilevsky. He's got a real shot to win the Vezina, and he could be in the conversation for Hart. I mean, he has been absolutely amazing.
Wow, isn't this going to be fun, Willie? Yeah. Goalie controversy if they start doing the split again.
I don't know. I kind of agree with Dave. I don't think that they will. I think that he wanted to get him in there and get him some game action. The Kings are playing better than a lot of people expected, but I think everybody knows Golden Knights they've been playing better. They're the best team in the West. And I think he just wanted to get Leonard some action. But I agree with Dave. Fleury's been the better goalie. He's looked fantastic out of training camp. I mean, he's in incredible shape for his age and doing things that, I mean, he's on pace to have his career best goals against average and save percentage this season. Yep. At one point last week when I launched this month's theme at my website, the national story was on Fleury. He was the only goalie in the league with the goals against average less than 2. And I'm not sure what it is after, as of right now. I haven't looked, but he's clearly the starter, and DeBoer can get away with running him, 2-3 games and then getting Leonard in and making sure he keeps getting game action. But the alternating game right now, it doesn't necessarily have to. It doesn't necessarily have to do it.
They want to finish first, and get the home ice. Especially with fans coming back, they want that. Yep. You don't want. I mean, Colorado is going to get really hot, okay? And you do not want to have them with the home ice advantage come playoff time.
And I will say this, and I won't compare the 2 fourth lines because Colorado's lines are phenomenal, 1 through 4. But it's the one thing that DeBoer's got to be happy in seeing is that the last 2 games. Reeves getting a deflection, Carrier getting a deflection. what that's doing is just going to add to some confidence and sort of maybe get a little bit of a groove going that fourth line finally doing something, at least being productive offensively, because you have to have that. If you end up in a series with Colorado 7 straight, you're going to need to roll 4 lines against that team.
Absolutely. And look, it's as simple as this. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it.
Yeah.
And right now, they're playing great hockey. And Fleury's just been spectacular. Look, he was super motivated coming into this season. I don't think there's any question about that, because you had a bunch of stuff last year. His dad dying clearly had a major impact on him. And then the thing that blew up when his agent did the thing with the sword in the back, and that didn't go over real well. And the fact is they bring in Leonard, who's a first-rate goaltender, and it's like, well, looks like they've lost some confidence in MAF. Well, that confidence level's back now, and I'm sure Leonard wants to play more, but he's a professional and he understands that you're talking about a Hall of Famer who's probably going to be third on the all-time wins list by the end of the season, who's in great form right now.
Yep. Yeah, you know what I found interesting in this month's theme at my website was coping with loss. And there was a personal reason behind doing it for the month of March. And I was shocked that Fleury agreed to talk. I had put a request in late January, and Sage came back. He said, yeah, I pitched it to him, and I told him it was you, and he agreed to it. So we talked about just losing his father. And, he loves being on the ice. If there's one thing outside of his wife and 3 kids he loves more than anything, is being on the ice. But he said that the bubble, the shutdown, it couldn't have come at a more perfect time, because it allowed him mental clarity to get away from everything and focus on family, and sort of just, and it wasn't a matter of being able to go through his grieving process, but just get away from the pressure, the outside noise, everything. And if you remember, there was a stretch when after he came back from going away to be with his family after his father died, where he actually went on a nice little run. I believe he won 6 straight. So I had written a story, but for AP. But even still, you could just tell he wasn't necessarily there, the mental clarity. And he admitted, he said that the shutdown really helped. And then going into the bubble helped, because the camaraderie with the players. So, after the season, just being able to train, and he stayed here in Las Vegas, he said, and really just bonding with his family. And he didn't say you don't not think about your dad, but you get wrapped up in your own family and doing things. And then he said a lot of times it's driving in his car, because he's so used to picking up that phone and calling him, especially after games or the day after game, and just being able to, on drives, you drive into the arena, you're going someplace and calling him. That was the one thing he missed. But that isolation time away from hockey, he said, was really strong for him.
All right. And we do think Leonard's going to be able to handle, someone who was asking earlier about the ratio. Was that Pickle? Sorry, I know someone was asking about, Pickle Gamer was saying, if you don't split the rest of the regular season, what's the ratio? Is it 3-1?
It depends on what the standings look like.
Yeah.
So
remember, the Golden Knights are dominating the bottom feeders in the West. Let's not ignore the fact that they struggled in Minnesota. Let's not ignore the fact that Colorado played them well here, Lake Tahoe, in Denver. I mean, that was a great series. So they're going to have to play better against the top tier. You can't just skate through the teams that are underneath at the bottom half of the West. So that's when we're really going to see, where they need to, if they need to rotate the goalies, maybe when you're playing the bottom half, you run Fleury 2 to 3 game to 1 ratio, and then that gives Leonard time to get into game shape and rotate them against Colorado and Minnesota, because that's clearly going to be the competition.
But let's understand something, and this is not a knock on Robin Leonard, who's a really good goalie, but when Fleury is right, let's put it this way: Fleury's going to the Hall of Fame. Yep. Leonard's not. That's not a knock on Robin Leonard. It's just that you're talking about a Hall of Famer. And when a Hall of Famer is playing at the top of his game and feeds on playing a lot, then he plays a lot.
That's 100%
simple
true.
as that.
Yeah. I mean, you are not going to, at this point, you're not going to supplant Marc-Andre Fleury.
Nobody's even talking about that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about this going back to the split, which
Right.
it's just not going to happen.
no, it's not, and it's not, like you said, it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not necessary right now. It's just not.
No, not necessary. It'd be a bad move. And DeBoer has not made many bad moves since he got this job. I mean, their record under this guy is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember what it is. They mentioned it, and I think I checked it last week or 2 weeks ago. But since he came to the Golden Knights, if you include last season through this season, I believe they have the best record.
Yeah. And that, by the way, it's not just the number one seed in the West. You want to get the number one overall seed if you can, because they're not going to do a bubble this year for the Stanley Cup playoffs unless something changes, and I don't think it's going to. So that home ice is going to be huge.
Real huge.
Especially with this home ice, because, I mean, you hear it from all around the league, from players, coaches, whatever. The atmosphere at T-Mobile, especially if the big crowds are back, This is one of the cool things about Las Vegas is we've had, if you go back to the heyday of the Rebels, there was no better home court in America.
Mm-mm.
None better. It was intimidating. The excitement factor there was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. There was no place like it. And I think it's you could make a really good argument. The Golden Knights have the best home ice advantage in the National Hockey League. And I'll say the same thing will happen in basketball when they get here in the NBA. The home court here will be incredible.
Yeah, and they said that. You know what I mean? They've done the polls, they've done player polls, anonymous player polls, and everybody said that since they've come in to the arena that since they've come into the league, that arena is the toughest one to play in. That last question about 50%, I believe that hopefully T-Mobile will be 50% or higher.
Yep.
It'll be 50% here, and then I think by the time that fans and season ticket holders are able to log in for the April purchase, they'll be at, because he's already approved the 50%.
Yeah, and
they just couldn't implement it last week because it was too quick a notice.
But we're really rolling on the vaccinations.
Yeah. It'll be up. It'll be interesting to see a playoff time that they can get 100% or even closer, between 50 to 75, whatever it is. But I tell you right now, for as loud as it gets for the 3,700, not that it was deafening, but just those chants, those isolated chants, because again, they were piping in noise. You get to 9,000, it's going to be pretty loud. It's going to be pretty loud in there.
Yeah.
So,
Dave, did you get the vaccine?
I have my shot scheduled on Monday. I did have it. I had it scheduled actually for last Monday, but that was the day. Unfortunately, I had to. I had to take the cat.
Your dog
to the
or cat? Yeah.
Yeah. He's
hanging
in there, but his time here is going to be limited.
Yeah. Willie?
I have not, because I don't know if I know I'm a journalist, but the fact that I'm a freelancer without like a letterhead.
Dude, go. They check nothing.
Oh, really?
I've heard this from
nothing. I mean, nothing. You show your ID. You say you don't have any symptoms. If you say you're a qualifier online, there was no paperwork needed.
Yeah.
Wow. Because Ed Brady sent me a link or something to look. And he just said, yeah, I think, and then he even encouraged me. He said, reach out to your editor with the Associated Press that you report to as an independent contractor and just see if they'll
Dude, get it.
Yeah. And basically, look, I don't know how else to say it. A lot of people. And so even if there is a little bit of an issue as far as your eligibility, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's just the way life is. Okay.
That's the way Vegas has always been, right?
It's not Vegas. It's any place.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be Fargo or Duluth. It's, believe me, if you know the right people, you got juice.
Yeah. CJ Cards fan said he went to the convention center with papers proving my work. They didn't check anything. Ari went yesterday to UNLV. They didn't check anything. Von Tobel and I both went yesterday. I didn't even know, I think he was later in the day. We both went. The process it's quick. It flows. It's safe. There's a lot of spacing. The shot itself was, I don't know if anyone else had a tough time with the shot. Mine was like a freaking pinch on the arm. Last night, because I got it during the day, last night felt like I had been like punched in the arm. Just someone walked up to me, punched me in the arm. So it was a little, felt like it was bruised for like 5 hours. I got up today. It was fine.
Yep.
So,
I take a shot every 2 weeks anyway in my arm, so I'm used to getting a shot.
Yeah. Hey, just bring credentials. You want some? I got like 400 on the door. I'm sure you saved some.
I have. I'll bring my Foreman Moorer one.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the right quote right there.
I just want you to get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the more people that have it, the quicker this thing is done.
I'd be interested to hear from the people that are in here watching. This is what I've heard. So you get 2 doses. The first one is supposed to be easy. The second one kicks you in the ass. But if you've had COVID like I had, the first one kicks you in the ass and the second one's a breeze. Is anybody?
Really?
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
Obviously, I'd be interested to know just so I know what to expect. You know what I mean? And try to time it maybe when the Golden Knights are gone for a little more of an extended period. So at least I know I got nothing to do. I could just sit at home and recover. I don't want to be up there with I don't know because I don't even know what they are, what the side effects are. So
right. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to be a little more careful or when I get the second one. Someone was asking which of the 3. I got Pfizer. I think Ari got Johnson & Johnson. I think.
Now, Johnson & Johnson is more limited in terms of where it's available, I believe, right?
Okay.
I think.
I didn't see it. I went up to SNHD and I think it was all Pfizer. So another person.
Gemma had 2 doses with no side effects. Jimmy Gemma.
Nothing. Yep. Sports guy.
Yeah, I was talking with my friend Joyce back in Rhode Island, who is I've been friends with her since kindergarten, and
Wow.
she had Pfizer and said that she's had both shots and said it was nothing, 0. She had no side effects at all.
Brady said had COVID. His wife had COVID, and she both shots were bad. All right.
Well, maybe if you've had COVID, I assume if you've had, I'm assuming this, I'm not a doctor, but if you've had COVID, it's entirely possible it's done some damage to your system. We don't know yet. We don't know what the long-term effect of the disease, of the virus is on people who've had it. So I'm not saying this with any particular knowledge, but it's possible that maybe it's lowered your resistance to other things.
Right. And how many people?
Hopefully not, because so many people have had it, but we don't know the answer to that.
And I wonder how many people had it and were asymptomatic and never ever tested positive.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's crazy is last year, Steve, you remember when I got it? Where it was right after the Pac-12 tournament last year, and it knocked the ever-living shit out of me. And then when I was finally able to get blood labs done for my normal quarterly checkup, the antibodies came in high. The next time I went in the last time I went in, so 2 doctor visits after, 2 labs after that, they did the antibodies again, and it was at its highest. So the doctor said, I don't know, there's no way that those antibodies are from last March. So you must have contracted it something, or you were asymptomatic, because your antibodies are a 2.8, which is the highest according to her. And so, I didn't even know that I had it again or whatever, but the antibodies were high all over again.
Yeah, I got one more thing to ask about Leonard and the Knights. Leonard's going to handle this okay? He's going to be okay mentally?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it okay to bring up his mental state often, or is that unfair?
It's 100% fair because of the fact that he is willing to talk about it, which I think is fantastic. Yesterday when he came on the press conference, what I wanted to ask was the fact that, concussion, you're talking about the brain, right? You're talking about the brain swelling inside the skull. So I said, there's got to be a level of anxiety that you're worried about when you've been diagnosed with bipolar. You have a chemical imbalance, your mental health. and everything involved, and now you get a concussion. So how did you handle that? And he touched on mental health, and then later is when Dave Shane asked the question that everybody sort of fed off of and wrote the story where he said, I'll word this carefully, but I want to throw this out there. There were whispers that you didn't have an injury and it was your mental health. Yep. And he was upfront, and we got sort of the vibe that he told the team, I'm telling them that I have a concussion. I'm going to be forthright. I'm not going to go out there and say, well, I got over it and this and that and not reveal it.
Exactly.
And he was forthright. And that's what we appreciate the most about him, is because he's so candid. But when it comes to his mental health, he talks about it. And that is what we've talked about this one time before on the show, a couple times, is that's what makes it simple. I think I talked about it on a Tuesday show with Allie, but we were talking about how when you can just talk about it and it flows, that's what's healing for people that deal with mental health. And he said it yesterday. He said, no matter who you are, at some point in time in your life, you deal with mental health. Doesn't matter what it is, who we are. Like right now, Dave's handicapping. He's probably in hog heaven. He's handicapping college basketball. He loves this. He's getting ready for baseball. But there's a part of him, he's worried about his cat, right? We were all worried. My dog just died a couple of months ago. You deal with things what I'm saying is that at some point we all deal with some sort of anxiety. It's a mental health issue.
It varies dramatically from one person.
It does.
I will tell you. Well, let me finish. Yeah. I will tell you that I have never had, in terms of real stress,
right,
zero in my life, none, because I am as, and I'm not saying this as a boast or anything like that. It's just the way I am. I'm about as even keel as it gets. Nothing much impacts me. That actually can be a negative in some ways, because I can be very emotionally detached. And in relationships, that's sometimes not a good thing. But that's just the way I am. So, it's not like when I got the news on the cat, it's like, okay, I'll just make it comfortable. Okay, next.
But what
I wish I was more emotional about things, but I don't know. It's just the way I am.
What I think Robin Leonard, what he said was to different levels of degree. So I'm not comparing it, maybe your concern or whatever it may be with your cat to Robin Leonard's situation of bipolar. They're not the same. But what he meant was that everybody goes to some degree in their own world, they deal with mental health issues. And so that being said, I think Leonard is fine because he talks about it and because he finally came out and discussed it. And he got past his addiction to pills and alcohol to deal with his bipolar, when he was diagnosed. So yes, I think it's fair to bring it up. But what it's not fair to do is what those guys on the radio did. I can't even think of their names, but the East Coast guys, and they suggested that it was not an injury, an upper body injury, that it was not something he tweaked, and that because they heard something, which how could they hear something when the Golden Knights are one of the most tight-knit teams in freaking all professional sports, that it was his mental health again, and he just didn't want to play.
No, they just made it up.
Yeah, so they're speculating, and so that's what's not fair.
I think it's fair because the Knights won't reveal anything. And Darren Millard was on today, and Darren and I were talking about it, and Darren said he had never thought, because Darren also has more insight than the rest of us do, but Darren had never thought of a mental breakdown as to why Leonard was out. And he explained it, and he got done. I was like, Darren, it was the first thing I thought of. It was the first thing I thought of because of the way the Knights in the NHL operate. Yeah, in that case, if the player is cool with pointing out it's not a mental breakdown, I think the Knights owe it to Robin Leonard to just say what the injury is so that there is no speculation. I think they're doing him a disservice with this secretive bullshit.
I agree with you. I agree with you that the Golden Knights doing him a disservice. But I and yes, it's okay to think that. Like, you're thinking to yourself, could it be the mental health? But to go on record and speculate that that's what it is, I don't think is fair.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do that. And then, I finally mentioned it today, but I'm like, I think it's part of the discussion because of the stupidity of the Knights in the NHL. It's dumb.
Yeah. And that starts at the top.
Yep.
That starts at the top. I mean, George McPhee he's very, very secretive and he's very standoffish from the media.
He's got a lot of Belichick in him, which is not bad as far as results go.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I you know what I've referenced it a couple times on Cofield and Company, and I'm definitely going to mention it in the future. And I mentioned it when I talk to people outside the market. I see what the Raiders do and kind of a lack of urgency at times, and I'm like, you know what, Raiders, dare to be the Knights. The Knights are not slow playing this thing.
No,
the Knights are like every year, every half season, we're analyzing, and if we need to move on, if we got to boot our coach who took us to a dream scenario, year one in the Stanley Cup, you go. If we got to ruffle feathers and tell Fleury you're not the guy, then he goes. If other heroes on the Misfits team, get out. So they're always looking to get better. It is very Belichickian.
And by and large, they've gotten the moves right. Listen, there was a lot of debate when the trade with the Canadians took place about, Pat Reddy's a nice player, but, geez, you're giving up a tremendous prospect in Suzuki. And Suzuki's working out well. He's going to be a nice player for Montreal, but I don't think anybody's complaining about that trade now, are they? Pat Reddy's been sensational for this team.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, let's not forget, McPhee built the team that beat the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup. I mean, he was the same position in Washington, so he knows what he's doing. It's just a matter of, the communication gap with the media and whatever. And they've admitted, I mean, other teams have even admitted. I've talked to other media members around the country that I guess it really is a concern of coaches and general managers and presidents and players themselves. When you reveal specific injuries, they go after those limbs and those joints and those knees and that head. So
it's not and beyond that. And look, I when I was in the media, sure, I'd like more information from Belichick, but his concern is giving his team the best advantage he can give them, and that included bending the rules at times. Hey, if you get caught, you get caught. It seems to work pretty well. Okay, the less the opposition knows, the better. It's not great for fans and media, but quite frankly, Bill Belichick doesn't give a shit about the fans and the media, and I don't think George McPhee does to any extent either. And if you're really a fan, well, all you want is wins, and they're producing those. So, can't complain.
I'll tell you a story real quick, because McPhee generally I don't know. I don't think it's personal. It's just as a whole, he just doesn't like the media. So it was either the second season or start of the third before shutdown. But we were in the media dining room, Dave, Shane, and I. Now, the way that the tables are set up, there are some that are a little bit longer than other, and it's tight in there before the game, right? You got NHL officials coming in, you got the guest media, the guest teams, everything, so on and so forth. So at one point, we sat our stuff down, and then we went over to where they have the setup to get your food, and you run through the little buffet line and get everything. So we had set our stuff down. At the same time, couple of members at the opposite end of the same long table from the PR team of the Golden Knights had sat down. So we simultaneously kind of sat at the same table, but let's say there was 8 seats. They had occupied 4 at one end, and Dave, Shane, and I were at the 2 at the very end. Okay, so we weren't sitting with them. We were just kind of at the end, almost like a lunch table in the cafeteria. And McPhee had walked in, and as we were sitting down or getting seconds or whatever we were doing, and one of the media or the PR team said, hey, George, sit down. And he kind of just under his breath was like, no, shook his head. And Dave and I both heard him go, I'll tell you later. And the PR team looked over kind of at the end, went, oh, okay. And we kind of just laughed. I glanced at one of the PR team. It was a mutual understanding, and we all just kind of got a kick out of it as George walked away. And He just wasn't going to sit down because we were sitting at the end of the table, as if we're going to listen and to their conversation or something. I don't know what the deal was, but he just wasn't going to hang around that table, and he damn sure wasn't sitting down.
Yeah.
So
this is developed into quite the market. All right, so I saw who was up earlier. I wasn't ignoring you, but we got on a flow in one direction on one topic. One of our big UNLV fans was chiming in earlier with a couple of comments on Otzelberger and the future. And I haven't talked to you guys, Sports Guy 06. I haven't talked to you guys about Otzelberger and the situation. So I'm going to start. We'll start with Dave. I'm going to say I am a little bothered that Otzelberger left. So go.
He left for Iowa State. I mean, if Iowa State comes calling, most coaches at a mid-major, sorry, that's what the Mountain West is. And boy, did it. And it really looked like a mid-major tonight, by the way. And in this tournament, Utah State got smacked around in the second half, and San Diego State was never in the game. Not a good day for the Mountain West. They're going to go. I mean, Iowa State's big time. UNLV isn't. Yeah, it just isn't, okay? We got a fluke for a few years when Lon Kruger was here. Lon Kruger is a huge name, and we were lucky to get him. And I think it reignited some of the old flames. It's like, hey, we can be UNLV again. But he left. I mean, he didn't even want to leave. But Oklahoma was offering him okay.
No, Lon. Sorry, I faded back to TJ. No, Lon didn't want to leave.
No,
they wanted to turn the page for some reason. They could have matched it. They didn't. It's one of the worst mistakes they've made.
A massive mistake. Lon didn't want to leave. I mean, he kept his house here. They still got the house.
They just built another one.
Yeah,
he's going to retire here.
He's going to retire here.
Yep.
Maybe they can talk him out of. I don't know. Once Oklahoma's done this year, to be honest with you, that's what I'd go for.
Well, that was my suggestion.
Come back home. You love it here anyway.
Dave. I haven't mentioned any of the pie in the sky people because I don't think Desiree has any interest. That was the only thing I pitched this week is, talk to Lon, see if, hey, he's 68. Yep. I did what I could do at Oklahoma. It's been good. I want to come back to Vegas, and he and Kevin take over with Kevin as coach in waiting. I don't think that's going to happen.
Neither do I, but that's the best. That's the best big name scenario there is. That we're not getting a big name coach.
That's the pitch you make, and they're not getting a big name coach not because they don't have money or because it's a shitty job. Desiree is not interested in a big name coach.
Right.
That's just like that's.
I think
it's a non-starter if she's not open to it. So Willie, what do you think of Otzelberger leaving? I mean, you dealt with him. And I know you have strong opinions on the personality of Arroyo, so you dealt with Otzelberger here and there. What do you think of Otzelberger leaving?
I do have an issue with somebody leaving when the job's unfinished, but I also understand that, it's not just that a Power 5 comes calling and you take advantage, you're going to get a payday and you're going, but the ties to Iowa State, I mean, it's, the opportunity may not happen again. And so you somewhat understand it. It's more so just the disappointment of Jesus. To me, it falls back on, look at the big picture at how many coaches, if you're going to look at this program for what it once was, which it'll never probably be again.
Should never be looked at like that again.
Yes, if you're going to look at it where how can we climb back into some sort of Mountain West power picture first and then on the national level, because you got to start with Mountain West. You got to crawl before you can walk and walk before you can run. So everybody that thinks we need to get back on the national scene, this is UNLV. Well, they better get relevant in the Mountain West first. Point is, go after somebody that gives a shit about the program long term, not that gives a shit about some other program and the dream job is somewhere else. In
that case, you have to go after somebody who I think is older and wants to settle here, make this his final job. I actually do believe the Pitino comments. The more I hear them, that he's not going to coach anyplace else again. He likes being in New York City. Ione is a good fit for him. He can build them into a powerhouse at that level. not going to win any national championships, but they can be really good at that level year after year, and he can have fun because he likes coaching, and there's no pressure on him. I think that's what if you want a long-term guy, rather than someone who looks at this as a stepping stone, because that's all it is now, is a stepping stone job. You got to go after somebody in Lon Kruger's situation, where they're past 60 and want one more job someplace that they really like. So who are those guys? I mean, I don't know who they are because I don't know them personally. But I think that's as far as a bigger name is concerned, that's the only way you can go.
I hadn't really thought about the scenario that you two talked about, and I've been so entrenched with the Golden Knights this week, and so I don't know if you talked about it on Twitter, Steve, and I've been watching the game, so I didn't get in my car and turn on the radio. But the Kruger back here with his kid here is an interesting concept. I didn't even think about that. That would be fantastic. That would be great.
When he's 68, he's 68. Yeah. That's big. If he was 58, it'd be no, that's not happening. 68. Right.
You talk to him and go, hey, Lon, what's the future hold? And Humans actually got me going on this because Matt was making the suggestion, and I'm not saying Desiree needs to go anywhere anytime soon. This is not her destination job either, so she's going to move on at some point. But it would be also cool if he's interested in having, Lon Kruger be the AD, right? Like Lon could do a 5-year stint in his 70s as the AD. So I hope they at least discussed it. I don't know where.
Right.
I don't know
pull a Barry Alvarez type thing.
Yeah. I see this name keeps on coming up, so I've got just. Aside from being a legacy, because he was part of an incredibly great team at UNLV. There we go. What in the world qualifies Stacey Augmon to be a head coach? He was practically invisible as an assistant. He doesn't deal with the media well at all. Sorry, he just doesn't. And that's part of the job. I just keep on. Why? Because he played here 30 years ago and was an assistant for a little while who, honestly, look, I wasn't the closest person to the program, but close enough. He didn't do a lot. Okay. It's a ridiculous choice. It just is. Steve Lavin hasn't coached in 15 years. Forget it. Stop bringing up these guys. And he wasn't a great coach.
Steve Lavin got
Juwan Howard was a very good assistant.
Steve Lavin got he's got the credentials from UCLA and St. John, so that's what he's trying to bank it on. But he got squashed when TKM, Tina Kunzer Murphy, put that 3-person panel together, and he was set. He had talked to her. He was set to be brought in. It was very close to being a done deal. I know that because I spoke to one of the persons on the 3-person panel, and Marcus Johnson told Tina Kunzer Murphy that Steve Lavin would be a horrible choice because he doesn't know his X's and O's, and he benefited from talent and throwing teams out there.
I don't disagree with that.
But he is not the person you want. And that's why he never made it to UNLV in the first place. So to get him here again, or to put him back in the conversation, I don't know. I texted him the other day, and his only reply was, LOL, deja vu. I said, when are you coming in for your interview? And he put LOL, deja vu.
He's interested. And Dave, Doug makes the point. Lavin actually coached up to 2015. I thought the same thing, that he'd been out for a long time. The other thing is, he's not that old. I was like, he's got to be in his 60s. He's 56. So, Dave, think about this. If you're looking for the guy who's looking for a final destination after multiple stops, right? Lavin, Frank Martin has wanted this job forever.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if his style is going to work, but he doesn't like South Carolina. It's not really a mix there. Like, those would be two of the guys. And I'll give you the other guy, and he has a job right now. Like, I don't feel like Ben Howland is a match regionally for Mississippi State, and he did want the job. You remember we went into we went into a weekend.
I was very upset that he didn't get the job.
The off season before Rice, was retained for a 5th. They had Howland all lined up, and they were going to move on Rice, and they started the weekend with Howland ready to go, and they came out of the weekend, and Rice had retained his job. So Howland, Lavin, and Frank Martin would be some of those guys if it's their last stop. Now, on your point about guys who give a shit about staying here and would stay for a long time, Kevin Kruger leads the way. Right. I think Kevin would be here for a while. And I think the other guy, and I don't know if they're going to consider him. I think the other guy is Todd Simon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's done a bang-up job at Southern Utah.
Yeah.
I understand it's not that difficult to move up in the Big Sky because it's the Big Sky, but they were a bottom 10 national program when he took them over, and he's worked wonders there.
Two names that I'm gonna say where I don't think this would be the final stop. You mentioned Lavin and his age, so I don't think this could potentially be his final stop. If he were to come here and resurrect the program and all of a sudden said, wow, Lavin's still got some life in him, let's not forget what Gonzaga and St. Mary's has done in the West Coast Conference. Lavin's a San Francisco guy. He's from Frisco. When he was talked about coming here the first time around a few years ago, it was also that would he go take the San Francisco Dons job? So let's just say he comes here, resurrects the job. Who knows if he turns around and leaves to join the West Coast Conference and turn San Francisco, just like Pitino with Iona in that smaller conference, but make some noise against a team like Gonzaga and contend like against a team with St. Mary's in the Bay Area, or be a contending team out of the Bay Area and in that conference. And then I saw that Sam Gordon wrote a story in the Review Journal today for tomorrow's paper on Jason Kidd. His name keeps coming up the last few vacancies, but if I'm not mistaken, his name had popped up for the Cal job, and I'm not sure why he did or didn't get that, if a degree is involved in there. But if Cal came calling, and anybody that turns this program around with a name like a Jason Kidd, like a Steve Lavin, and does a good job in 4 or 5 years, and someplace else that they can call home comes calling, there's no guarantee they're staying here.
Right. Some of the other names that were mentioned, forget Greg Marshall. Okay, Greg Marshall, I'm not going to rule out that he might coach again at some point in the future, but he's absolutely toxic at this point. So no, absolutely no. Lorenzo Romar.
Yeah, I'm just
mentioned Lorenzo Romar. Aaron, please, you can't be serious.
I'm just telling you, and I said this the other day when we first started talking about it, I said it on the air, and Willie probably knows this. If Desiree is 100% in charge of the hire, anyone who has anything connected to them that is off-putting has no shot at the job. Anyone who's been at a program where there are off-putting things has no shot at the job. Like, I think Joe Pasternak would be a nice hire here. He'd be a hell of a recruiter. A lot of people respect him as a coach. He's got UCSB in the tournament. He's connected to Arizona. In a weird way, like, I think Damon Stoudemire could put together a really interesting staff. But, I mean, would he be discounted because he's connected to Arizona? Like, I wonder how hardcore it is. But I'm telling you, if she's in charge and it's not boosters coming in saying, hey, we want our guy, here's the money, or, we're out of here. We're done with this bullshit, right? If she's in charge 100%, she's going to eliminate most of the, coaches who've had some kind of issue in the past. And you know what? Someone mentioned Greg Anthony. Greg got popped.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. That could be the kind of thing where she's like, nope. So, not going to happen.
Greg lost. I mean, I think it's totally unfair, but Greg lost maybe the best analyst job that was out there. I mean, he was everywhere, and he's great at it too. He's a fantastic analyst.
Yeah.
I don't know that Greg's ever expressed a desire to coach.
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
Mentioned it.
And Stoudemire would be interesting because he would bring Justin Hawkins with him from Pacific, and Jayhawk, a former running Rebel. I know Justin Hawkins tried to get on Otzelberger's staff.
Yeah,
and that didn't happen. So.
I do think that the school's attitude towards Alford was incorrect.
What's that?
I think the attitude the last time around that, hey, Alford wouldn't be considered. He wanted this job over Reno. And come on, folks, look at what he's done. They're going to be in the tournament next year.
Yep.
They are in 3 years.
In the right direction.
Yep. He's a great coach.
Yep.
He can be a penis. He's an arrogant guy. Noodles is a fucking nightmare. Both of those guys together here would be like Jesus, but he wins. He does.
Yep. They're going to be a solid.
He knows the conference.
Yep. And they have recruiting ties everywhere. And they're most of their teams coming back next year. They got this kid Sherfield, who's a top 5 player in the conference, was going to go to UCLA, then Wichita. He's here. They got solid wing prospects. They got some big men. They've got a Texas big man sitting out. They've got an Oregon wing sitting out. I'm talking about transferring from those schools, and they're in on AJ Brahma, who we talked about a couple of weeks ago, unless you decided today and I missed it. He was a 21-10 guy at Robert Morris, and he's got Reno as the top 3 destination for his transfer.
I will say this. They need to move.
Yes.
Because let's call it straight. There's you got a lot of really good graduate transfers who are going to be, and they're going to be coming to schools at this level in the Mountain West because they'll have a chance to be stars, quite frankly. And with no head coach, you're not going to get any of those guys.
Yep.
So they need to make a decision quickly.
Well, and you got 5 or 6 guys on the roster who you want to keep. Hamilton will be tough, but you got other guys you want to keep. You let this linger for 2 weeks like last time, and Otzelberger had a tough time coming in and holding on to dudes. It's funny. I saw someone mocking on Menzies, I don't know, a couple of minutes ago. I've said it the whole time. Marvin's 4th-year team, what he had coming back, they were going to be good. So I know everyone gets upset with the stories they hear that he lived it up in Vegas and was asking for show tickets and all. They were going to be good. So I mean, after 2 years, is UNLV better off without Menzies and with Otzelberger for 2 years? I'm not so sure. And I do want to go back to one more thing earlier about, hey, it's Iowa State. You got to go. If Otzelberger was that tight with this Jamie Pollard, right? Like Pollard years ago was driving up to see his games at South Dakota State. Why did Otzelberger even come here? Dude, you could have just stayed at South Dakota State. You were getting the job. You were getting the Iowa State job. Why even come here for the 2 years? What was the point?
Well, not bad. It's not bad to spend a couple of years in Las Vegas. It's more fun than South Dakota.
It's bad. It's bad for the fans of UNLV. They feel like they got jilted.
Oh, right. Well, they kind of did, but you ought to be used to it by now.
Which goes back to what I said: bring somebody in who gives a shit and is not using this as a step up, because that's always, it's. And to your point about Marvin, and anybody that's ridiculing him, the only difference about coaches now that are being ridiculed and coming in and having a good time in Las Vegas and Marvin, whatever, is the difference between now and a long time ago is social media. Because if there was no social media, if there was social media back then, well, then you'd be finding out about all the coaches that were having a good time. It's not like Tark wasn't out and about at times when he was here. Let's not play dumb. I'm not saying he was out partying, but he went out. He was known to go to the Shark Club. He was out at Piero's. He was around town. He was going to the shows.
Piero's all the time.
The only difference now is that we have social media, so everybody can't wait to blow it up and get their phone camera out and put them on blast. And so that's normal. That's Vegas. You know what I mean? What are you not going to do? You're not going to go to the shows?
Well, in any case, I think the 3 of us and most of the crowd agrees.
Yeah.
Let's go after LK. Make a pitch for LK. And start there. And if he says no, then you go in another direction.
Can I?
We have cast our lot here.
Yes. Probably get myself in trouble for this one, but I'll also mention I think part of, we've never really talked about this on the air. I think part of Marvin going bye-bye was also the fact that there's stuff tied to Brandon McCoy. There were a lot of allegations out there about McCoy, getting benefits. I don't know. As it turned out, if that was the top recruit that Marvin got and it didn't work out, there might have been problems off the floor and it didn't work out on the floor. Is the Zion Collins situation, is the book closed?
You mean with the new coach, if they open it back up for him?
No. I don't mean him coming here. I'm saying the full Zion Collins story. Is the book closed on this whole thing? Far from it.
I would agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So I honestly, that could be a small part of Ott's going, you know what? Let's go. You know what I mean? So.
You know what? Let me ask you this. You guys.
Yeah.
How much do you think to that point right there is that a guy like that, clean cut guy, right, from the Midwest up in South Dakota, like things start getting heavy and you're in Las Vegas and it's very high profile, right? This is Vegas. You almost are intimidated by the potential that you start playing well, you get to teams playing well, whatever. Now all of a sudden you become a celebrity. in this town. You're not just a high-profile coach. You're a celebrity. I wonder how much that pressure is in an intimidated.
Not what it used to be, because UNLV is now the third franchise in the city. UNLV, for all the time I was here, I got here a long, long time ago, and UNLV was the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's not now. I don't know that it's ever going to be again. I would doubt it. We are now a pro sports town.
100%.
So I don't think the pressure is what it used to be. It's not like it was on Raleigh, and it's not like it was on Bano. Let's put it that way. I mean, those guys, it's like you need to be getting us to Elite Eights and Final Fours. That was real pressure. Not that I liked Raleigh, who was a creep, okay? Sorry to speak that way of the dead, but he was not a good guy. But the pressure for whoever followed Tark was going to be enormous, and they hired the wrong guy to handle that pressure. And as it turned out, we didn't know it, but Billy wasn't. Pressure's not a good thing for Billy. It's just
he's still having problems.
I know, and he's a great guy. So I'm just, I hope he gets better.
And again, I hope this whole week, like doing these podcasts and today on the show, I went after Otz a little bit about the whole roster thing, because the Iowa State AD was saying, well, he had to come in and rebuild the program. They had 8 new guys the second year. Like, yeah, that's his responsibility. He chose to get certain guys and push other guys out. That was roster management. He didn't nail it in either year. The other thing I saw tonight, who I forget who pointed it out, and it's probably just someone on Twitter. I saw Otz tweet, "Hey, we're home." Wait, Otzelberger tweets? Since when?
Yeah, I can't remember. Did you say that on the?
No, I retweeted it tonight, but I didn't talk about it on the air because I saw his kind of "Hey, I'm back" tweet, and I was like, wait a second, he never tweeted while he was here. What's that?
I heard somebody bring that up too. I don't know if it was.
Someone says it was a fake. Okay, all right.
Oh, okay.
That's believable.
Hey, by the way, Tark is the GOAT. Had a comment earlier, and then it looks like he cut and pasted and repeated, because I know I saw that earlier. Who has a higher pressure next season, Arroyo or the new head coach? I think it's Arroyo.
Basketball. I don't.
No, I don't.
In the first season?
No,
well, I mean, Dave, a lot of it's gonna. Well, you know what? No, it's basketball. It's basketball.
Yeah. I mean, look, UNLV football. You have to pay 10,000 people to go see the Rebels play. If football, it's just the football program's a joke. Okay, there's no expectations in football, none.
Thanks, Goat.
At least UNLV basketball, there are still expectations, which is why people get upset when they don't produce. I mean, who really gets upset about UNLV football not winning? And
in terms of this coming year, we know football is a build. Basketball, there is no build. All right.
It's not win
There's
now.
No build. And in this state, we watched Musselman take over David Carter's team with 9 wins. They were respectable in the first year, and they were like 28 wins in the second. It's unfair. Those standards are unfair because Musselman is friggin' awesome. Whoever comes in here, unless it's a Mendy situation where we're being introduced on May 4th to the new coach,
right?
And like literally, it's Marvin Coleman as a team, right?
Yeah.
No, the basketball coach will always have more pressure because you can quick fix basketball to be respectable so much more easily than football.
Doug makes a good point. UNLV is now spirit team. UNLV is now a spirit team. The dance teams won like 3 national championships, and the cheerleaders have won back-to-back national championships.
Cool.
The golf team team's always been a powerhouse, right? Remember when swimming
but golf isn't a spectator sport.
No, no, but there have been other sports that have, it's just that basketball's always, ever since the Rotunda days. And so I get what you guys are saying. I'm just basing it off that first year. But you're right, because when she goes up there and says, we're a win now, and that was introducing Otz, then I guess you better repeat that this year, we're in this month or whenever you announce whoever it is going to be the coach.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see who it's going to be.
Well, they better move, because whoever made the comment about May 4th.
Well, I just did.
You, Steve?
Yeah, I just
said, that better not happen.
No, this has to be done before the end of the tournament. I mean, I think middle of next week, unless they're waiting on someone, and they've got some miraculous run. They've got a coach in the tournament, and the coach goes to the Sweet 16. Beyond that, come on, let's get it done here.
So we have to root against Lon tomorrow. so that Oklahoma's out and they can go after him on Sunday.
Yeah, look at Dave. I got Dave all fired up.
But I think they're going to win tomorrow, so so might have to wait.
Are we? But and let's not forget there's an NIT to consider too. We don't know if she's eyeing somebody there. I don't know who, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, you know what? I would. I think he's already ready to jump to Power 5, but I would bust the balls of Colorado State and make CSU pay Medved more. I make a run at him. I would do that all the time. I make a run at Craig Smith.
I think he's heading for the big time, though.
That's what I think too. I think Craig Smith is too. They don't need to.
I was just gonna say, what about Craig Smith?
They don't need to.
Yeah,
if
Craig
you
Smith
look at
is
it,
interesting.
they pump up.
Craig Smith is interesting. I think he really likes it there, and he could be another Stu Morrill, who's you know what this is where I like being.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if Minnesota said, because he's from Minnesota, if Minnesota came calling to Craig Smith and said, "Come rescue us," that okay. But I think he likes it there. Nico, I believe, is ambitious, and he's really good. By the way, he's a terrific coach.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the players have to execute, but he came up with a couple of great plays late in the game tonight. I mean, they were just first rate. And again, the players have to execute, but they buy into what he's saying. Colorado State sucked when he arrived, and they're already a good program that you can argue could have easily been in the NCAA tournament this year. They basically were one loss away. I think Nico's heading for a Power 5 league within a couple of years.
If I were Utah, I would talk to him. I don't think Craig Smith would go to Utah, but if I were Utah, I'd be all over Nico Medved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would I.
I've just enjoyed the 7-part list that Cofield keeps putting it out on Twitter. Let me ask you this, because I think we all know it's not going to happen, and not because of whatever people want to assume why I'm about to say this, but that's not the reason. I just don't think that they're gonna that she's gonna go approach Becky Hammon. But could Becky Hammon come in and change a D1 program? Or do you think that she even wants to? She's already in the NBA.
It's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about it, because whoever makes that move is going to be under enormous scrutiny. I think at some point she's going to get a head coaching job, and I would suspect it'll be in the college ranks. But that's going to be one where the AD is also putting his or her job on the line when they make that hire. Because if it doesn't work out, the AD would go before the coach.
Some of the comments that I've read this week, when her name's been brought up, or since Otts made the was that could she handle? She's handling pros who sort of already have that maturity and mentality to hear what she has to say and will give her the respect. And could she handle kids? But let's not forget, she won an NBA Summer League championship, which is only 10 days long. I get it, but you're dealing with rookies and first-year players, and she came in and she's done a good job. She's showing that she can. I just don't know if I don't even know if she would want to when she's already, like I said, already in the NBA.
Yeah, I actually think she's going to be. I think she will be the first NBA female head coach. I think she will get it sometime in the next 5 years. She's going to get a chance to be a head coach. Somebody's going to take that step in the NBA.
And why even venture into college where you have to deal with boosters who are going to try to tempt you into here's what we can do for you, so on so, and even deal with all the bullshit that comes with it. When, like, again, you know what I mean? She's dialed in with the pros. So, I mean, I found it interesting that they brought her name up, and I totally respect her because I've been to the summer league while she's coaching. It's just my question was, why would you go back? To me, it's like, why are you going back to college? You're in the pros.
Yeah.
So,
and I think she sees the potential handwriting on the wall. That's a great question from Pickle Gamer. Could very well. I would not rule that out at all. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. She could be, just biding her time and being groomed perfectly because she knows the game. She knows the organization. She knows the franchise.
And the players respect her.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I read you one more thing on the UNLV job before we move on? I thought this was really interesting in Sam Gordon story, he talked to a couple of boosters, including Bill Paulos, who he's one of the most powerful guys. His name's on the court. He can donate whatever he wants. By the way, I also have to address when people outside the market and even inside the market are like, they have no money. They have money, right? It doesn't mean that people are going to give it to them without influence and without getting the coach they want. There's money here. People will step up. They can afford, an expensive coach. I thought this was real interesting in Sam Gordon's story. Bill Paulos said, I'm extremely disappointed in the program on a number of fronts. This next hire has to be pretty amazing and has to come with players. It has to be an A-plus guy. It can't be, quote, we're just going to hire some assistant coach from someplace and bring him in. If you read further down in the Sam Gordon story, he added a couple of new names, including an Oregon assistant named Tony Stubblefield. And then you've got Bill Paulos is like, no assistants. So Stubblefield will probably get an interview without the approval of Bill Paulos.
He's on a great staff.
Staff that can recruit. My God. I mean, UNLV, when UNLV's gotten guys like Anthony Bennett, oftentimes they've had to go head-to-head with Oregon. And I do believe that maybe not with Hardy, but I do believe that Houston was plucked off of the UNLV roster. And I know, I won't say I guarantee it, Eugene Amari, who was one of the star players this year, was a May transfer from Rutgers. So you figure that one out, right? There was some contact there. So anyway, so that'd be interesting. What would be your reaction, guys, if they hired an assistant? And here's the other one, another Oregon assistant, keeping Arroyo in mind. What would the fan base do?
I don't think the fan base would like it at all. I don't think the fan base is going to like any assistant.
No.
Not at this point. I think the fan base is fed up. I think they've grown impatient because, and this is a 100% knock on the fan base, and you're talking to Dave, who's been here since the 80s, me, who's been here since 72. People can't fucking get out of the 1990 their mindset.
I know.
We
how long
understand
have
the
I
history.
been saying this? I mean,
Dave was saying it back when we did the show, starting back like 07, 08.
Before Lon got here.
Oh, even before,
This was when Charlie was here, when Spoon was here. I said, we're never going to be back where we were. The landscape's changed. Now Lon rekindled the fire. He's amazing. He's a Hall of Famer.
Go ahead. That passion, like Ron brought that back, but let's just say he stayed and brought it back to and just kept elevating. It still wasn't going to be the same UNLV Tark vibe. It just you could do something
not to that level, but right. I will tell you this. I mean, if Lon hadn't left, we'd be going to NCAA tournaments on a pretty much annual basis.
Absolutely,
okay?
absolutely.
It would be a big national program. It might not be. No, would it ever? Well, never going to be what UNLV was.
Never.
That's not happening. But it would have been absolutely the equal of San Diego State on an annual basis.
Absolutely.
At the very least.
Contending every year.
San Diego State is a national program.
Yes. I mean, they're in the top 25.
Right.
They're the reason I have to make sure I got a full tank when they're in town. Because
and this year's team wasn't as good as last year's. It's a shame. I thought the Aztecs last year, that team had a chance to make a pretty big run. I didn't think this team would. Maybe they win one game in the tournament, which didn't happen, but that was as far as they were going to go. But it's a national program. They're going to be good every year.
I agree with you. The people that were saying, oh, they're going to make a run, they can get to the Sweet 16, Syracuse, so on and so forth. I think it was the other night even you and Petro were talking to talk about which one of our teams is going to. But when I watched in person and covered San Diego State against Wyoming, I knew that team wasn't going to make that far because the blueprint was laid. I mean, just cut the game in half, frustrate them. I'm a little pissed that Steve's tip on the freaking under fell by a point or two tonight.
Oh my God.
Gosh, I was with you on that one. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see it. But yes, Dave, last year was a real travesty for what happened to that team.
Yeah, I gave you the other under, and that was Rutgers and Clemson. I knew that would be a rock fight because both teams stink offensively. and that was 126, and it finished at 116. So
Rutgers coming through on what was a rather rough day for the Big Ten.
Yes.
Well, you know what? My two favorite. I bet them on Sunday night. My two favorite picks today were Wisconsin, so that was an easy win against North Carolina. But my other one was San Diego State, so I got destroyed on that one. So
I didn't expect
Dave,
them to win, but
Dave, I do want to mention though, I'm surprised. Like when you were talking about the Mountain West earlier, about it was a really rough day and it makes the conference look bad, and I think it's interesting that a lot of people in the gambling world talk about one-off situations in the NCAA tournament, and then they spin it back like that conference sucks.
No, I'm not saying that. I have the conference as at the top of the mid-major list.
Right.
Okay. It's a good league. I'm just saying that in the talking head national perspective, San Diego State and Utah State got destroyed in the second half by Texas Tech. And in fact, I don't even know how they were ever in the game. They had like 23 turnovers. They got crushed.
But this
and San Diego State did not look good tonight. So the talking heads are going to say, well, Mountain West is no good. I'm not saying I don't agree with that. I think Mountain West could win. You might have an NIT champion come out of the Mountain West. I think that's
well. The funny thing is the matchups were terrible, right? San Diego State and Utah State are primarily defensive teams with kind of grinding offenses. They match them up against freaking grinding teams with great defenses. The two best, two of the better offensive teams in the Mountain West Conference are Boise and Colorado State. They're not in. So I don't know. I just saw, like you said with the Big Ten, I just saw like, oh, the Big Ten's overrated. Like they're one-off games. You can play these games. You can play these games 100 times. You may get a different result. People were bagging on the ACC today. It's like, well, then
that's what they do.
It's stupid though. It's like I
know
think
it's stupid.
The overrated. Like they're single games. It doesn't mean that much.
Well, but they don't. But look, I guess I'm going to say, in a sense, I give them a pass because they don't really follow college basketball, except for the big name schools. They couldn't tell you anything about these other schools.
But Dave, I started this by saying people in the gambling community were doing it, which I think
most gamblers lose. So
no gambling experts.
Most gambling experts lose.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I'm not. They just do.
Yeah, but I just think that high and low attitude of terrible, suck. Like, stop. That's not. If you gamble you do stink.
You had Ohio State beats Oral Roberts. What, 9 out of 10 times? Today was the 10th. I mean, I had Oral Roberts because I thought the line was ridiculously high. But did I think they were going to win the game? Well, I didn't have anything on the money line, so that tells you that I didn't think they were going to win the game. And who's the other Big Ten team that lost in overtime? I'm blanking on it.
Purdue.
Purdue.
Yeah.
They ran into a pretty good team.
Yep. How about tomorrow? Let's go out on a strong note here with some advice on games tomorrow. I'll roll through the games and let me see if you guys have anything on them.
I have very little tomorrow, but I'll tell you the games I like when we get to them.
I mean, you could tell me also why you stayed away too, right? Is Colorado Georgetown too small at 6?
If Colorado plays 40 minutes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't trust Colorado. I've said this. We do a basketball show. I do 4 days a week on Wager Talk. And I think I've said it about 50 times this year. I don't trust Colorado. I think they've got top 10 talent. And I just think they lose their focus in games constantly. They better not do that tomorrow because Georgetown's coming in free and easy with a ton of momentum. If the right Colorado shows up, they will handle this team. And Aaron gets that right. McKinley Wright is a great college basketball player. He really is. And if the big kid, Batty, is on his game, Georgetown will have a real tough time matching up with him.
All right.
Colorado, if they lose focus and allow Georgetown to disrupt what they do, and they come in with that rugged Big East physical style and start bullying them, and it disrupts, and then that just sort of becomes contagious, it's definitely going to disrupt their offensive flow, and they're going to end up losing the game outright. But they have to play. They got to get a good 32, 34 perfect basketball minutes. Otherwise, it could screw things up in terms of their chemistry.
Okay, I want to just answer this on Georgetown emotional letdown. Hard to get that high again days later. How did Oregon State make out?
Exactly.
Because they were in the identical situation.
Yep.
maybe even more so because they beat Oregon to get here, which is huge for them.
Just days after, Oregon got revenge on them and beat the shit out of them.
Right. Yeah, 10 in the regular season. That's right.
And when Oregon State beat them the first game in the regular season, Oregon was without a ton of players. Yep. So the revenge game, they had a full roster. And I liked Oregon in the tournament, so I was wrong. Oregon State came back and smacked them right back.
They did. Listen, what Oregon's, and as far as the physical stuff goes, Tennessee's about as physical as it gets. And Oregon State just actually pushed them around today for 40 minutes. So I don't know that the physicality is going to be a problem for Colorado. I think maybe the Pac-12 has this reputation for being a finesse conference. I don't think it really is at this point. Oregon can rough it up. UCLA actually did some pretty good banging against Michigan State. I think if you'd have thought going in, who's the more physical team, you're going to say Michigan State. I don't think they necessarily were. So Oregon State just shredded Tennessee today. By the way, Tinkle versus Barnes. Talk about a coaching mismatch. Tinkle's a great coach. Barnes is a good recruiter. Pac-12 might actually be a little bit better than we thought they were. And I'll put myself in that group. I didn't think some good teams, but not a real standout. They had a good day today. They've had a good couple of days in this tournament.
Yeah, but what I said was, I didn't say Georgetown was going to come out and immediately. What I said was, to your point, if they lose focus and they are not playing their consistent brand, it opens the door for Georgetown to come in and play the bully. Yes. But you're right. They're not just going to come in and push Colorado around right off the bat. Absolutely not. That's why the focus has to be from jump, and they got to put together that 32 to 34 minutes of solid basketball. Get the players off to get some quality minutes down to their 7th, 8th guys. Keep the legs fresh and maintain that. You know what I mean? And they can win that game. That's why they're favored. But they just have to be consistent throughout and not let Georgetown disrupt and go on any runs or stop Colorado from going on using their rebounding ability to turn into transition game, in which they like to do and push the tempo.
Yeah, so but just forget about letdown though. Letdowns
not this time of year.
Georgetown is coming in with the same attitude Oregon State had today, which is we're on a roll and we want to keep it going.
And Georgetown it's not just the 4 games in the Big East. They've won 8 of 10.
Oh yeah, listen.
So they're on a run. Yeah,
Patrick Ewing has really started to come into his own as a coach. That team is they're playing smart basketball, and that goes directly to the guy on the bench. Ewing, I think, had a little X's and O's issue his first couple of years, but he has settled in and shown he can coach.
It's a good card tomorrow. There's a lot of close numbers. 2 10.5-point spreads. You guys have any interest in Greensboro as a dog against Florida State, or will Eastern Washington test Kansas?
Kansas is still shorthanded, but not as shorthanded. McCormick is back. He's been cleared to play. I know he hasn't practiced, but Eastern Washington can't match up with him. I think Kansas and the Big 12 looked really good today. Really good. Everybody won. I think the only team that didn't cover was Kansas, and it was the top team, Baylor. And they kind of won that by 40 if they wanted to. So I don't think I want to get in the way of any Big 12 teams. And Eastern Washington's a nice team, and they're on a roll, and they got some talent, but it's still Big Sky versus, right now, a really hot conference. I think Kansas puts them away.
Yeah, I think Kansas put its issues aside from when it was sort of playing. Yeah, you kind of wondered, where's their head at earlier in the season. What did they want to they had a 3-game skid and then they lost whatever it was, 4 or 6, but they're playing well right now.
They've won 9 out of 10, and the only loss was in overtime at Texas.
Yeah. And they beat Baylor. Don't forget, so the last time Kansas was, I'm sorry, Steve, the last time Kansas was on the floor, they won. Let's not forget that they won. They couldn't finish because of COVID issues. So it's not like this team is, they picked things up.
And McCormick he's a big, nasty guy. Okay,
and I am not
6'10", 250. He's a big dude. I don't know that Eastern Washington can handle him.
Yeah,
he's good. He might not have practiced, but he's going to have fresh legs.
Go ahead, Steve.
How about Bonnie and LSU? LSU 1.5.
Great game.
Yeah.
No
Really
idea.
good game.
Okay. What do you think of Creighton? I mean, that was not a good close to the season. 7.5 against 7.5 against UCSB.
I don't know which Creighton shows up. Good Creighton is going to win the game by a lot. Bad Creighton will lose it. If it's close, I think Santa Barbara beats them. But and one thing to bear in mind, Creighton stinks at the foul line. I don't know why, because they shouldn't. They've got good shooters, but they're a bad free throw shooting team, and bad free throw shooting teams get knocked out of this tournament. So I don't know.
And Santa Barbara's got a good defense. You know, that may be coming from a very small conference, but amidst conference play, they were in the top 2 or 3 in about 9 or 10 defensive categories in conference play. I think they were in the top 20 nationwide in points against. So I mean, they defend well inside the arc, and if the wrong Creighton shows up, Dave's right, and they keep it within arm's length, they can turn some turnovers into points.
How do you figure out which Creighton? I mean, they have been completely erratic at the end of the season. They've had some real good games and some really bad games too.
How about Patino against Bama, 16.5?
With all due respect to Patino, they're probably going to get killed because Alabama is just completely loaded. I mean,
the 3.
Iona's going to have a great game, but they're here. They're here, and Patino's maybe he can come up with a game plan to keep him in the game for a while.
Would you take a shot on Drake plus 6.5 against Southern Cal?
I would have said yes until I'm kind of buying the Pac-12 a little bit right now, to be honest with you. But Drake is not a team I'm anxious to go against. That team might have the best chemistry in the country, and now they've got Hemphill back. I mean, they've overachieved all season long in a big way, and they don't know they've overachieved though. They think they're really good.
I think USC's out to prove something. I think that they had a nice run mid-season toward the latter half, and then all of a sudden they stumbled and then they lost. And I think that they had grand aspiration. I mean, how long were they sitting on top of the Pac-12? I think that they're coming in with a chip on their shoulders, and they're going to be looking to smack the shit out of somebody.
Well, Drake's going to have to figure out how to handle Mobley. Good luck on that.
Both.
Well, especially the
of course.
I get it mixed up.
Might be into the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Is Iowa going to crush Grand Canyon 14?
I think Grand Canyon is going to give him a game for a half.
Yes. And then Luka's going to take over.
Now, one thing, they should be, I would think their coach is going to make a point of saying, hey, we better be ready because look what happened to a couple of our teams today. We don't want to be the next one.
Good point. Because I say this all the time in every college or pros. People pay attention to what's taking place in other series, other things, and very good point. And they're going to relate to the Big Ten teams and everything, and they're not going to want that to happen. And not to mention the showdown against Illinois in the tournament and the loss. I think he's going to – Grand Canyon will hang around. They'll make a first half of it, but I think Iowa pulls away.
It could be – could be, and they're not the same type of team at all, but it could be kind of like what we saw with Colgate today, where it's like they really battled, but Arkansas was just
they just didn't have the depth.
They're just too athletic and too deep for them, and they just completely wore them down in the second half. That could be what happens with Iowa Grand Canyon.
I've seen a ton of people who love UConn, not only to win the game tomorrow, but make real noise in this tournament. They're 3 against Maryland.
I will put this one in the coaching department. I think Hurley finds a way to beat Turgeon. I think he's a better coach.
Okay.
I make no mistake about it. If you were asking me to make a list of the top 10 college basketball coaches in the country, Hurley is absolutely on the list.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's a great coach.
Is he better than his brother?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, the one thing Bobby has failed to do is get his team ready to play every game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they had a lot of problems this year at Arizona State. It was a Murphy's Law season for them.
Yeah.
Whatever could go wrong did go wrong, but they had some games that were just shamefully bad, and that you got to point to the coach when that happens.
You know what's funny is I was just thinking of covering like high school basketball, way back in the day in New Jersey, and Bobby Hurley was the better player over Danny, and Danny was a pretty good college player, but their personalities are much different. And when they played, Bobby was more like, super emotional, and Danny was just baseline. And it's kind of the way they've turned out as coaches.
Doug Croft's on a comment to Patino to BC baby. I don't think that's happening, but I would suggest that part of the reason BC hasn't named a coach yet is they know who their coach is. It's Mark Schmidt from St. Bonaventure. He's a BC guy.
You know what? BC already named a coach.
They did?
Yeah, they named him. They named him 4 days ago. Was because that's what Adam and I were talking about, the fact that how does the Bonnie coach not get the job? It was Earl Grant from Charleston.
Oh, I missed that. Really?
Yeah.
I completely missed. Really? Earl Grant.
I don't understand how they don't wait for the Bonnie coach.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Unless he indicated to them that he was not interested, because it is possible.
It's a hard program. Man.
Oh, I mean, they're in the wrong conference.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be in the right conference for revenue, but they're in the wrong conference if they want to win, and that goes for football as well.
They should be in the Big East. They should be in the Big Catholic, whatever. It's a better match with those schools. But that's a lot of money to give up. That's a lot of money. It's like 25 million, 27 million difference in payout.
Well, there you go. Mark Schmidt's available, UNLV. No, okay. I'm joking.
Yeah, if you can win in Olean, New York, man, that's tough.
They're a good program.
Yep. You worried about Virginia covering 7 against Ohio?
I think there's a first half play as well, because Ohio is coming in red hot, fearless at this point, and Virginia hasn't practiced at all because of and plus they got there real late, so that if it's going to impact them, it's going to be early.
Okay. Missouri, Oklahoma. Your guy Lon won.
Yep. I think Oklahoma. Both teams.
By the way, I got to mention, Konzo Martin is on like 5 different coaching lists, which means they're getting close to wanting him out because he has a 3 and 4 year shelf life. And Sam Gordon from the paper did mention Konzo Martin in the front runner list, the initial front runner list. I was like, come on, his guy called you. Is he really under consideration when he bounces every 3 or 4 years? Give me a break.
LK, but I'll take LK to outcoach him. Yeah, both teams are coming in struggling, but Oklahoma, look, they had a bad loss to Kansas State, but the other 3 losses, they were really good. I mean, they were other really good Big 12 teams. They were very competitive. I think Oklahoma gets through. It's a good game. It's one of the best games of the day, but I think Oklahoma wins.
Yeah, I agree. That was a tough. I tried to handicap that game, and I was going back and forth looking at the numbers, and it boils down to who's gonna outcoach at the end in that last 5 minutes, and I like Oklahoma.
Well, plus
you get to hit my. Go ahead.
Missouri basically is a 2-man team. If you can contain those 2 guys, you got them beat.
All right. I think UCLA and BYU are basically even teams, but. No, 4-point spread.
No, I
BYU favorite. Yeah.
I think this is one of the best games of the day.
Does normally the play-in, right? They have an extra day here or there, whatever. But does the overtime and the win over Izzo and the Spartans does that hurt them at all? Do you think?
No, they won.
Does that help the momentum?
They won.
Oh yeah.
A win never hurts in this tournament.
I mean, I get what Willie's saying. Like, are they satisfied with what they did?
Oh,
there are teams that get 1 win and they're like, man, you know what? We did what we could.
But
so
not UCLA.
I agree, not UCLA. And I think the fact that if they were lacking a little confidence, they did just go against a school with a big reputation, a rough and tumble crew, and they beat them.
I don't think it's a case of being satisfied either, because we've seen some of these teams go on runs over the years. I don't think Oral Roberts is going to be satisfied because they beat Ohio State. They might just get out talented in the next game and not have as good a game, because they had a great game today. That little guy, Oswan or whatever his name is. What a player. What a player he is.
He was amazing.
And I don't think it's a satisfaction thing either. I'm just saying being able to bring that emotion. You brought it for the game, then you brought it for overtime. Now you got to bring it for BYU. So that's what I'm just wondering is if they can put that together immediately again. But yeah, no, and it's the Bruins. I mean, it is a storied program, so I get it.
Yeah,
we
Mick
still
Cronin's
haven't
pretty
hit.
good.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
But BYU is a nice team. I've become more impressed with BYU as the season progressed. I wasn't very high on them at the start of the season. They've turned out to be good, and they're a very, very well coached team.
Yep. Last one we'll cover Oregon with all those transfers, all those names. Amari Hardy on the team. VCU. Mike Rhodes. Interesting name, by the way. Interesting name.
Who hasn't done a thing in tournaments.
5.5.
Yeah, I think Oregon handles them. First of all, VCU is really good defensively. They're not very good offensively, and they're running into a very good defensive coach in Altman, who's going to throw a bunch of different stuff at him. I don't know that VCU can handle it. They'll be aggressive, but Oregon's got everybody back now. This is the healthiest they've been all year, and we know what Dana Altman is capable of doing in this tournament. I'd be surprised if VCU wins tomorrow. Maybe they can compete, but I'm not going against the Ducks.
And I'm going to tell you why I like Oregon in general, because they don't have Peyton Pritchard anymore. They don't have the one person that they always have to turn to spark the team at any given time, to hit a big shot, to get, he had a decent supporting cast last year. I was up in Seattle and watched him single-handedly bring them back against Washington. But because they don't have that, and they have any number of guys that can step up, and they have a nice balance, I think it helps them, and it's brought that team closer. So that's what I like about Oregon.
And they've got another guy who would be on my top 10 list of college basketball coaches in Dana Altman. He's magic.
He's a good coach. Yeah.
He's a great coach.
By the way, if Indiana was really playing for real and they want to get a big-time coach, then go and steal Altman.
They got enough money to do that?
Offer him $5 or $6.
Oregon will match him.
You're right. But as I said earlier, if I were Indiana, I would also make people pay for their coach. Yeah, I want him. You can pay him, but I want him. And someone just made a comment, is Hardy having a good year? He's actually been up and down, but here's the thing. Amari Hardy went there, and he's like, you know what? I'll take 5 shots a game. I'll be a point guard. So he's been in and out of the lineup, and he's coming off the bench sometimes. I think he's been about what they expected. He's not a big scorer, but he's a good player.
He's been a role player.
Yeah, and by the way,
Shakur went up there was a role player.
They want to win.
Like everybody else, he's got another year of eligibility.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, Willie, Jaden has not decided, right?
No, not that I know of.
What do you think he's going to do? Is he going to go to college or just go straight to G League?
To be honest, I couldn't even tell you. I wouldn't even know where his mindset is, and I wouldn't blame him if he went that route. But I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. And with everything shut down the way it was, and prep's not, I really been detached from everything. I honestly, I thought about it when they made the decision, and football is now playing the smaller, like Faith Lutheran played tonight. I don't know if I'll ever cover a high school event, which is kind of sad. I may do feature stories on certain storylines for my site if I see a good feature out there. But as far as going out and covering, I may have covered after 30x plus years, my last given high school coverage in my hometown, my last coverage 2 school years ago. So I don't know. The game that you didn't touch on real quick, I just throw out there. I'm curious, Dave, you have an opinion, is Abilene Christian in Texas? Because I think Texas is I like them.
Abilene Christian can play. I've actually seen them play a few games this year because I had bets on them. I'll stream and I try to watch these teams when I could, because I thought Abilene Christian all year. I thought they'd be in the tournament. So you want to try and at least get a look at it. They can play, but Texas, that's another. A lot of these games, the smaller team can hang in for 20, but they just can't hang in for 40. So I have a tendency to on those games to maybe look more first half than full game.
Half. I just like to, I was watching them in the tournament, in their conference tournament, and they closed the season with 4 road games. They're now on a 4-1 run against ranked teams. They've won 6 of the last 7, and they're just, Shaka Smart's has them playing so well. I admit I haven't seen Abilene Christian, and all I like to do is read about them and look, sort of crunch the numbers, but as far as the Texas, the makeup of this Texas team, kind of like Texas tomorrow. I think that I think they're going to put it on them. And if it's got to be in the second half, it'll be in the second half. Could be like you described the Colgate, Arkansas, whatever game it was. We just brought up that you compare what it could be like. Was it I don't remember which one it was, but it could be something like that. But I think Texas, I think Shaka Smart, I don't think he's going to win it all. I think he's going to run into roadblock, but I think they're a good team.
No, that conference is loaded. I mean, they really are. I mean, Kansas State wasn't very good, and TCU, I don't know how much slack Jamie Dixon's got at this point, and Iowa State was a train wreck. But the rest of that conference, those teams were all powerful.
TJ Otzelberger, the Iowa State coach, beat Kansas State with UNLV.
All right. Thanks for all the compliments. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Have a great weekend, Martini Maker.
Yeah. I hope you guys win this weekend, and we'll check in next week. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate you.